They didn't throw me out. They erased me while I was still there. I was folding towels in the laundry room when I heard my daughter-in-law's voice through the thin wall. Honestly, Mark, she's becoming such a burden. Always needing something. Always there when we want privacy. My hands stilled on the soft cotton. 43 years of marriage, 32 years of motherhood, and I had become a burden. The towel fell to the floor. That evening I prepared dinner as I had for decades. Roast chicken with herbs from the garden I still tended. Mashed potatoes made from scratch. Green beans picked that morning. I set the table with my grandmother's china. The one I'd been saving for special occasions that never seemed to come anymore. "Mom, we're eating out tonight," my son announced, not looking up from his phone. Sarah made reservations. Sarah, my daughter-in-law, who had been in our family for 8 years, but had never once asked about my recipes, my stories, or my day. "I've already prepared dinner," I said quietly. "Well, we didn't ask you to." Her voice was sharp, dismissive. "You can eat it tomorrow." They left. I heard the car doors slam, the engine start, the gravel crunch under tires. I sat alone at the table I had set for 4, staring at the empty chairs. The chicken grew cold. The candles I had lit flickered in the silence. That night I called my sister Margaret in Phoenix. We hadn't spoken in months. Life had gotten busy the way it does when you're taking care of everyone, except yourself. "Ruth, is everything all right? It's late." I told her everything. The whispered conversations, the forgotten invitations, the way they discussed my future as if I weren't in the room. The way my own son nodded when his wife suggested I might be happier in a care facility. "How long has this been going on?" Margaret asked. I think it's been years. I just didn't want to see it." Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Ruth, do you remember what Mama used to say? When people show you who they are, believe them." I did remember. Mama who worked 3 jobs to raise us alone after Daddy left. Mama who never let anyone treat her like she was disposable. The next morning brought new cruelties disguised as concern. Sarah rearranged my kitchen cabinets for efficiency, moving everything I used daily to shelves I couldn't reach. My son Mark suggested I might want to simplify my belongings, code for getting rid of things that mattered to me. "This old jewelry box takes up so much space, Mom." It was my mother's jewelry box, hand-carved walnut with a tiny ballerina that still spun when you opened it. Inside were my wedding ring from their father, God rest his soul, and the pearl earrings I'd worn to Mark's graduation. "It stays," I said. "Be reasonable. It stays." That afternoon, while they were at work, I sat in my late husband's chair and made a list. Not of things to give away, but of things I remembered. The Christmas mornings when Mark ran down the stairs in footy pajamas. The way he used to curl up next to me when thunderstorms scared him. The proud smile on his face when he brought Sarah home for the first time. "She's going to love you, Mom," he had said. "You're going to be the mother she never had. Where had that man gone? When did my boy become a stranger who discussed my existence like a problem to be solved?" The memories felt like old photographs, beautiful, but fading. Sarah started leaving real estate brochures on my dresser. "Active senior communities," she called them. Places with names like Golden Sunset Manor and Peaceful Meadows. Places where they served dinner at 4:30 and played bingo on Wednesdays. "Just looking at options," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I wasn't stupid. I knew what she was doing. Making me feel unwelcome in my own home until leaving seemed like my idea. But this was the house where I'd brought my babies, home from the hospital. where I'd nursed them through chicken pox and helped them with homework, where I'd held my husband's hand as cancer took him, promising him I'd be okay. How do you abandon the walls that hold your entire history? One evening, Mark sat beside me on the porch swing his father had built. For a moment, I thought maybe we could talk. Really talk. Mom. He began, his voice gentle. We're just worried about you. Living alone in this big house. What if you fall? What if something happens and no one's here? I'm not alone. You live here too. But Sarah and we're thinking about moving, getting our own place. We need space to grow our family. Our family. Not his family that included me. Our family that didn't. When? I asked. Soon. Maybe by Christmas. Christmas was 3 months away. They were planning to leave me alone for the holidays. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house touching surfaces worn smooth by decades of living. The kitchen counter where I'd rolled out thousands of cookies. The banister my children had slid down despite my warnings. The window seat where I used to read them bedtime stories. By morning, something had shifted inside. Me, not broken, clarified. I called Margaret again. I need to ask you something, I said. Is your offer still open? 2 years ago, Margaret had asked if I wanted to move to Phoenix. Be roommates like when we were girls. Share expenses, share company, share the burden of aging with someone who actually loved me. I had said no. This was my home, my family, my life. Now I understood home isn't where your things are. It's where you're wanted. Of course it's still open, Margaret said. When do you want to come? Soon. I didn't tell Mark and Sarah immediately. Instead, I started sorting through 72 years of life. Not to get rid of things, but to decide what mattered enough to take with me. Mama's jewelry box, yes. Photo albums, yes. The quilt I'd made for Mark's high school graduation that he'd never used, no. Each decision felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I found documents I'd forgotten about, insurance policies, investment accounts Tom had set up years ago, a savings account with more money than I'd remembered. Money I'd been saving for emergencies that had never come. Maybe this was the emergency. I made phone calls, quiet ones, a real estate agent, a moving company, a lawyer to update my will. I wasn't being vindictive, I was being practical. If they wanted to treat me like I was already gone, I'd make their wish come true. The hardest part was watching them continue their lives as if I had already disappeared. Dinner conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Whispered phone calls behind closed doors. Sarah cooking meals for 2, then remembering to ask if I was hungry. Always as an afterthought. Have you decided about the communities? Sarah asked one morning, refilling her coffee cup, but not offering me any. Yes, I said. I have. She smiled. Finally progress in removing the inconvenient mother-in-law. Which one interests you? None of them. Her smile faltered. What do you mean? I mean, I'm moving to Phoenix, to live with my sister. The coffee cup clattered against the saucer. Phoenix, but that's so far away. Not far enough. Apparently. Mark appeared in the doorway, already dressed for work. Mom, what's this about Phoenix? I'm moving there, next month. I watched his face cycle through surprised confusion and something that might have been relief. That's very sudden. Not really. I've been thinking about it for 2 years. You just helped me decide. Sarah recovered first. Well, if that's what you want. It is. What I didn't tell them was that I'd already hired movers, already transferred my accounts to a Phoenix bank. already given my doctor's office a forwarding address. I was 72 years old, and for the first time in decades, I was making decisions for myself. The house sold faster than I'd expected. A young couple with 2 small children fell in love with the wraparound porch and the garden I'd tended for 30 years. They promised to keep the swing Tom had built. Mark and Sarah seemed stunned by how quickly things were moving. "You don't have to sell the house," Mark said the night before closing. "You could rent it out, keep it as an investment." "I could," I agreed. "But I won't." "But this is our family home." "No," I said quietly. "This was our family home. Now it's going to be someone else's." The moving truck arrived on a Tuesday morning in October. I supervised while they packed my carefully selected belongings. So much less than I'd accumulated over 7 decades, but somehow feeling like more. Sarah hovered nearby making suggestions about what I should leave behind. "That china cabinet is so heavy, Ruth. And where will you put it in an apartment?" "Margaret has a dining room." "But do you really need all those dishes? When will you ever use them?" I turned to look at her. Really look at her. This woman who had lived in my house for 8 years, but had never once asked to learn my mother's recipes. Who had eaten countless meals from those dishes, but considered them worthless. "I'll use them every Sunday," I said. "When Margaret and I have dinner together, when we invite friends over, when we celebrate holidays and birthdays and ordinary Tuesdays that deserve special plates." She didn't understand. She'd never understood. That the dishes weren't about the dishes. They were about intention, about making moments matter, about treating people, and yourself, like you're worth the good china. Mark took me to lunch while the movers finished. We sat in a restaurant we'd been to a dozen times, but everything felt different. Final. "I don't understand why you're doing this," he said, cutting his sandwich into precise squares the way he had as a child. "I know you don't. We never asked you to leave. You didn't have to." He was quiet for a long time.